Okay, Jewel, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, board, staff, and members of the public. After my statement, the chairman will open this meeting and explain the rules for this electronic meeting. Please keep your microphone on mute when you are not speaking. The technical support team may proactively mute participants if the microphone is picking up background noise. Board members should check to make sure the microphone is not muted before speaking. You may text me at 540-336-3948 at any time during the meeting if you need technical support, and an IT tech will call your cell phone to assist. I now turn the meeting over to Board Chairman Kobliss.
Thanks, Jewel. Welcome, everybody. Opening the meeting and introducing our legal counsel, Jonathan Rack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the Governor's State of Emergency Declaration and executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors Continuity of Government Ordinance and General Assembly 2020 Budget Amendments 28 and 137, Loudoun Water will meet today in an electronic meeting. In compliance with these special procedures, only action items necessary to continue operations of Loudoun Water and the discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities will be discussed during today's meeting. Reports and other meeting information are available on board docs. Public notice and meeting access information was provided on the Loudoun Water website. And as you know, a recording of the meeting is being made and will be posted on the Loudoun Water website. I would just note that the Continuity of Government Ordinance will expire in September, and the board will be required at that point to resume in-person meetings with a quorum of the members being physically present at the meeting room. So that'll be coming after your August recess. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think you're still on mute.
What a rookie. Good Lord. During presentation, staff will pause for questions and discussion. There will be an opportunity for discussion after each presentation, and we will also monitor and recognize the hand raise feature. For each action item, a roll call voice vote will be taken by the board secretary. Opportunity for public comment was provided within the meeting notice. Any written comments were provided to the board secretary and will be read during the public speaker's agenda item. I ask now that board secretary take roll, please.
Sir, Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mr. Bonfils? Jim, I think you're muted. Thank you. Mr. Byers?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Kobliss?
Here.
Mr. Moody?
Here.
Ms. Sursakar?
Yes.
And Mr. Sultan?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve last month's minutes, please?
So moved. This is Bill.
And a second?
Jim Bonfils, second. This is Marty.
Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Jewel.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bonfils?
Yes.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar?
Yes.
Mr. Sultan?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
And Mr. Kobliss?
Yes.
Unanimous, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Jewel.
You're welcome.
Now we'll go into the board member comments, and I'll go ahead and go first. I'm sure all of you have taken the test. Here's my certificate someplace in here. There you go. We have a security awareness training that came by email to your board email address. Please open it and do the 30-minute training. It is for cybersecurity awareness. And even if you think you know it all, I'll bet you even Mr. Bonfils is going to be surprised on some of the stuff that I heard in there. I was really stunned a couple times. They have a little quick test at the end. I'll give you a little secret. I wanted to be like, 100% right after about the third time through it, because they make you go all the way back to the beginning. So if you click back, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. So finally I said, I'll get 7 out of 8 right, and I got the certificate. But it's very informative, and you'll learn a lot. Continuing on, I already stated this in the CIP, I believe, but Mr. Roddy Moe is retiring. He has been with the firm for over 30 years, if I remember correctly, and he's been a valuable asset for me for the past 12 years. He's always there. I can text him anytime of the day, night, doesn't matter. And usually I'm just texting because I don't want to write it down. So I text him, and then about 5 minutes later, Roddy's giving me an answer. So he's going to be sorely missed. I'm just so proud of him, of what he's accomplished at Loudon Water. And he's the type of person, along with many others, is the reason why I continue to want to be on this board. So good luck and congratulations to Roddy. As you heard from Jonathan, we are returning in person in September. However, the meeting in September is one of those meetings that you don't have to attend. It is not one. It'll be the October meeting. However, the committee meetings in September, we will have to have a quorum in person to attend. So we need to start planning for that to be in person. And there is a requirement by FOIA that you're only allowed per year to miss 2 meetings per year. So you can't just say, well, I'm not going to come into the meeting. You have to come in at that point. I'm not sure what the penalties are, but Jonathan is going to go over all of that in September. So I'm just kind of giving you some warning. I also want to compliment Brian Carnes on the annual report. It was amazing. It was the first time I've ever read the report in 12 years. I felt like I should, since I was chairman, but it was very, very informative, and it's just incredible the amount of work that people put in. I know Brian will quickly say that he was just a part of putting it together. There were so many other people, but in my opinion, it was a great, great report. Okay, Jim, you're next.
Sure, thank you. I'll be brief. I'd like to reflect your comments, and a couple of them, but in particularly to Rodney, and congratulations on his decision, and extend a lot of appreciation for all his efforts with Loudon Water and our community. It's been great. I hope there's some ways that we can not let all of that knowledge walk out, and occasionally consult with him. So I really appreciate everything that you've done. And this has been a really busy spring for me, for a lot of different ways, but I really am proud of what everything Loudon Water has done, and all of our staff, the really great staff that we have. So that's all I have today. And as we move on, and wish any of the fathers happy Father's Day.
Angeline, you're next.
As I said in our CIP meeting, the first thing I want to do is thank Roddy for his service to Loudon Water Board. He's always been there for me. I know many of you, including the chairman, I remember you saying, you've known him for 12 years, and I've known him only for a year. But the service and the commitment, the dedication has always been there. It's been consistent. And I wish him well. I wish him a smooth retirement. I also want to wish all the staff at the Loudon Water Board for really going through, a great, providing a great, excellent service in the times of COVID. I know we're not out of the COVID as of yet, but still, I mean, again, the service has been consistent, and it's to me is an excellence. So thank you for that, and thank you for all others who support the Loudon Water Board. And you all do a fabulous job, and as the chairman said, that is the reason why we're here. So thank you.
Terry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I want to echo the comments about Roddy. He always has a smile on his face, and he always is willing to answer a question, as soon as you ask it. So it was bittersweet hearing the news, but I wish him well, and we need to really grill him for the next months until he retires. We can't ease up on him. So I want to throw that out there. It's great to be out and active again. Everyone seems like most people have been vaccinated, so it feels like life is returning to normal. So hopefully everyone at Loudon Water and their families are also, getting back in the gear, in gear again and seeing family and having a good time. So hopefully we can keep this going. And then happy Father's Day and happy Mother's Day. Obviously, we didn't have a board meeting last month, so we couldn't say kudos to the moms, but happy to both. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Brett?
Thank you. Yeah, Terry, I thought you were going to say we got to really grill Alton, but congratulations to Alton, by the way, as well. And Roddy, thanks for all your service. You have been extremely knowledgeable. I can't think of a time. I don't know how long I've been on this thing, a couple of years or however long it's been, but I can't think of a time when somebody's asked a question when you haven't known an answer. So you've definitely been on top of things, and you've been wonderful for Loudon Water. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy some much earned rest and relaxation. But I'm sure you won't just be sitting around. I'm sure you'll have all kinds of other things all lined up. So anyhow, that's all from me.
Thank you.
Keith, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to also wish Roddy and Alton well in their retirement. As being a new member like Angeline, I know my initial impression was when Roddy was through orientation, spent time chatting with us and giving us an overview and a real understanding of Loudon Water, as well as some of the responsibilities, and just really getting a sense of what it meant to be a part of the board of Loudon Water and some of the activities, the major activities going on. Also, I'd like to say that it's good to hear about the cybersecurity awareness training. As everyone knows, with all the cybersecurity and ransomware that's taken place with SolarWinds to JDS and the meat, and then the Colonial Pipeline, this is forefront in society right now in terms of cyber attacks. So it's really a good to see that Loudon Water is putting in, going forward with. I know this is probably something to do all the time, but really bring it to the forefront and making us all continue awareness of the importance of security training and following security procedures.
Marty?
I'd like to also congratulate Roddy. As you guys know, I've worked for 3 other utilities in this area and met a lot of design engineers, a lot of engineers, and I would put Roddy right at the top. He's really a good one. I wish him well. And I also would like to congratulate the staff going through this pandemic without a hitch. That's amazing. That's all I have to say.
Sean?
Thank you. Also want to congratulate Roddy. Roddy, you've done a tremendous job. I mean, during my time as chair, you're always there to answer questions. Your steady hand on the rudder, so to speak, especially as we're going through all the changes with Trap Rock and so forth. We couldn't have done it without you, and well deserved. I hope you get to enjoy your retirement and do some very interesting things. I wish you well, and I want to just thank you so much for your service. We're lucky that Roddy was able to train up Alton, and we've got a great person to take his place. Big shoes to fill. I think Alton will grow into them. but it's a nice kind of legacy at Loudon Water that we have a situation where one person leaves, we've got somebody kind of standing, waiting in the wings to take their place. Our chairwoman is our general manager is no exception to that. She stepped right in, hit the ground running, no downtime, no time lost. So I kind of expect the same thing from Alton. And Roddy, I just remember the one thing I remember. Really, one story about you is the time we had the small oil spill from the power plant. You were the first guy to go out there and recognize it and figure it out. Everybody else was trying to run around where it was coming from. You and your staff were the first ones out there in a boat, figuring out where it came from and could confirm it. So good for you that we were on top of that. I really appreciate that. So good luck to you, and Alton, congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bill?
Yes, I certainly congratulate Roddy. Roddy, I think you need to do a better job of negotiation, though. You know, Dale retired and he got a building named after him. I mean, at minimum, there should be, you know, the Roddy Moe pump station somewhere. I mean, I think that's a minimum requirement for someone with that many years of service. But regardless of that, thank you very much for your service to Loudon Water. It's been a pleasure serving with you.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. So I guess the first thing to say before we get to the general manager's report, and I'm only saying this because I've been yelled at by my daughters who knew Alton. It's Alton, not Alton. Think of it as Big Al. That's how I'm going to remember. So it's Big Alton. Is that, I think that's right, correct, Carla?
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All righty. Let's see. I just noticed that my background makes me look like I'm in the heavens here. I got to change that background. Anyway, Carla, cue you up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I have the good fortune of getting to continue to work with Roddy for a few more months, and I can guarantee you that we are not slacking up at all on our dear friend. He's got a lot to do before he leaves. We have big plans for him, but as you can tell, Roddy has done an amazing job with succession planning. This was a smooth transition. The organization was not surprised at all that Alton stepped up and is now our DGM of operations and maintenance. And we made another executive change, which was also to have Pam Kennel take on the role of executive director of engineering as we work through some of these transitions. And so I have no doubt that they will both be very successful in their new roles. And I'll save my my goodbyes for Roddy for later. I do want to let you know that on Sunday, we successfully migrated our LW Connect online customer portal to a new Mendix platform. And as part of this upgrade, there's a new newly designed homepage, and we now allow American Express as a form of payment. So to give our customers another option. And this platform will actually allow us to more rapidly deliver improvements, and also sets us up for future enhancements that we have in mind. And just thought we would throw out there, we have over 47,000 customers using our LW Connect. And so that's a pretty good number. So I just want to publicly thank our customer service group and our IT team for working together to make that transition happen. Trap Rock will be switching over from free chlorine disinfectant to combined chlorine on Saturday to prepare our central system for when Fairfax water also converts back to combined chlorine. And so during this spring flushing, which we've been giving you updates about in our email updates, both Loudon Water and Fairfax water temporarily switch from combined chlorine or chloramines to free chlorine. And so free chlorine serves as a more aggressive disinfectant that helps aid in the disinfection of those flushed water lines. So once that flushing is complete, both utilities switch the disinfectant back to chloramines to provide a more stable disinfectant through the rest of the year. And that's pretty standard practice for water use utility systems in the United States. And so I do want to give a shout out to our line maintenance team, who once again did a great job on the flushing program this year. A couple statistics for you. We have approved 565 applications for utility assistance funding and have applied more than $316,000 to outstanding accounts. We currently have 1,871 payment plans in place. For June so far, we've added 169 ERCs, bringing our year-to-date total to 1,315. And our budget projection through June is 1,100. So we're on a good pace with connections for this year. A few reminders for you. The Water Resources Committee has their meeting next Wednesday. And I wanted to just say a few words about that because there are some of you that may have interest, may not be on the committee, but you might want to attend. So the agenda for next week is really focused on water quality. And so this is a good example of a topic that staff wanted to present to the board and why we asked for this committee to be formed in the first place. Mr. Byers, I believe you asked a question back in the February board meeting about, you were talking about a report that you read about forever chemicals. And so part of next week's meeting, we will talk about activities related to that and how we're working with our regional partners to better understand the issue and proactively respond to growing concerns. And so we encourage all members to join for this information meeting. The CIP committee will meet on Wednesday, June 23rd at 8 a.m. Finance committee Thursday, June 24th at 8 a.m. And then you also have a board workshop scheduled for Wednesday, June 30th at 8 a.m., which is about the expansion of the Broad Run plant and our wastewater strategies. And so back in February, we started the procurement process to select a team of firms to work with us on this third phase of expansion of Broad Run. And so where we are now is in the negotiation phase with one team. Only 2 teams submitted proposals. And so we're in negotiations with one of those teams. And we want to bring a contract forward to the CIP committee at their August meeting. And on behalf of myself and all those at Loudon Water, we want to wish you a happy Father's Day and hope you can have a relaxing, enjoyable time. And that's all I have.
Carla, it's Sean. Just one question, if I may. The payment assistance plans, that's fantastic. We're to help our customers. We should take a victory lap and let the Board of Supervisors know, if we haven't already, that we've taken care of their constituents through those modifications and assistance plans. You've probably already done that.
Well, actually, you know, this is one of those where the money had to come through them, so they knew that we got the money. But yes, we haven't really. Actually, Brian checks in with the county regularly, and they review, you know, not the applications per se, but you know, numbers and how the customers are being helped out in these tough times. So there's constant communication on that at the county or with the county staff.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Sir, you're on mute, Mr. Kobliss.
Can you believe that? My mouse died right then. Luckily, whoops, Luckily, I had a battery right around the corner. That's too funny. Okay, Jewel, are there anybody signed up for public comments?
No, sir, no public comments today.
All righty. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved,
It's
this
Keith,
Marty.
so moved.
And a second?
It's Keith, second.
All right, any discussion? Jewel, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bonfields?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar?
Yes.
Mr. Sultan?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
And Mr. Koblis?
Yes, yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Let's discuss the audit committee meeting. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a good meeting with our auditors, Young Hyde Barbour. And as you, I guess, we came through again with flying colors. They were very complimentary of Brian and his staff. It went very smooth. We're going to be issued a clean, unmodified opinion again this year. They recommended four recommendations for process and procedures improvements. I think one is done, two might be done already. Kind of fall in the range of best practice, kind of tighten things up in a couple of areas where they saw some opportunities to make some improvements. We're going to keep we're maintaining our AAA rating in all three rating agencies. And as Mark mentioned, I think as one who spends his living, along with Mr. Byers, reading financial reports and annual statements and so forth, it's a phenomenal annual report. I mean, you usually kind of go through them when they come through because I'm interested, but this one in particular seemed very well done. It has a lot, for those of you who knew, Keith and Angelina, it has a lot of the history of the authority in the back and kind of how we got to where we are today. A lot of very good information in there, and I think it's very, very helpful, especially if you're a new member of the board. It also gives I thought, a great overview of what happened in 2020 and all the accomplishments and all the efforts that the staff put through in 2020. A lot of work was done. Kind of, we didn't see it, but we knew it was going on. But it gives a good illustration of what was happening, who was working, because most of the employees were essential. What they're up to and so forth, and it really shows a great effort to keep things going in 2020 during the pandemic. So kudos to the staff on that. But I think again we'll be awarded the prize for a very good, very thorough annual report. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Sean. Marty, CIP committee?
Sir, you're muted. Marty?
I think I'm getting the disease from Mark. Anyway, the first item was approval of a design task order for Russell Branch Pump Station. The existing Belmont Ridge pumping station was constructed as an interim station in 2002. In 2017, HDR began design of the Russell Branch sewage pumping station, which would alleviate the deficient capacity in the Belmont Ridge pumping station that was caused by increased flow. Design was nearly completed in 2019 when changes to the county's comprehensive plan added portions of the Leesburg JLMA to Loudon Water Central Service Area. A substantial redesign of the station is required to accommodate this increased flow. Approximately 75% of the existing design is impacted. Staff has recommended that the current pump station designer be retained to make the necessary design changes and recommends approval of a task order in the amount of $386,000. The CIP committee recommends approval of a task order with the estimated fee of $386,500 and a 5% contingency for a total budget of $406,000. The CIP committee forwarded this item for inclusion on the consent agenda. We then got a Milestone Reservoir update. Staff expects to bring a negotiated CMAR contract for approval in the third quarter of this year. We also got a capital construction quarterly report. As usual, the program is in good shape and under control. I would like to add something that this is possible due to the excellent work of our construction folks, but not enough credit is given to our project managers. Without his excellent design, drawings, and specifications, the work of our construction folks would certainly be much more difficult. And then we got a capital spending monthly report, and there's nothing outstanding to note with that. That's all I have.
Thanks, Marty. Terry, the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a pretty quick meeting last month. The first item on the list was the approval of the Davenport and Company Financial Advisory Services contract. It seems like every year at this time, we do this one-year renewal. So I won't get into it in details, other than we've had a long-term relationship with Davenport, and we are piggybacking off of the Montgomery County contract. The rates and fees are in the board packet. I don't want to get into those, and the items on consent agenda, so it's pretty straightforward. The next item that we discussed was monthly financial summary. As usual, revenues were down a little bit. Non-operating revenues were up a little bit, and of course expenses were down. So we had a great month once again. ERC's Carla already updated us on that, so I won't go into that. The quarterly investment review, we have cash equivalent investments of $325 million, the weighted average yield of 57 basis points. So still very low. And then the next item on the list that we talked about the most was, of course, the comprehensive annual financial report, which is an action item today that Brian's going to give us, is going to give a presentation on it. So I don't want to really get into it at this point because it's upcoming. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Terry. Can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Sean.
And a second?
Second, Terry.
Any more discussion on any of the two items? All right, go ahead, Jewel.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bonfils?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar?
Yes.
Mr. Sultan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
And Mr. Koblis?
Yes.
Unanimous, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. On to the action agenda. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As is our tradition and required by our bylaws, the board annually elects its officers, and we'll start with the election of the board chairman and then turn to the board vice chairman. As I noted in my email to you last month, any board member may nominate him or herself or any other board member for these two offices. Chairman Koblis and Vice Chairman Allen are both eligible for re-election if the board wishes to do that. And I will start by asking for nominations. If there's only one nomination for an office, we'll just vote on confirming that nominee. But if there are more than one nominee, then we'll take a roll call where you state the nominee's name that you wish to vote for. So let's begin with election of the board chairman. Are there any nominations from the board for the office of chairman?
I would like to
nominate Mark Koblis.
This is Marty. I'd like to nominate Mark. Mark Koblis.
Thank you. Mr. Koblis has been nominated for re-election. Are there any other nominees for the office of chairman? Okay, seeing no other nominees, I will just ask Mr. Bonfils, I think you've got your hand raised. Was there anything you wanted to note or make a nomination?
No, I raised my hand while you were giving the initial thing to nominate Mark Koblas, but I was
Okay.
going to do that. Thank
It
you.
was a race. Okay.
Really, okay.
All right. I will close the nominations for the office of chairman and ask Jewel to take a roll call vote to elect Mark Koblas as chairman for the coming year.
Thank you. Mr. Bonfils,
I vote yes.
Mr. Byers,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar,
I'm thinking, yes.
thank you, Mr. Sultan,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
and Mr. Koblis.
Yes, and thank you, everyone. I will promise to do a good job next year also, and always know that I am extremely accessible. So anytime there's a question, please email me, text me, or call me. Jonathan?
Thank you, and congratulations, Mr. Chairman. So now we will take nominations for the office of Board Vice Chairman.
I'd like to nominate Terry Allen for Board Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any other nominees for the office of Board Vice Chairman? Seeing none, I'd like to ask Jewel to take the role to elect Terry Allen as the Board Vice Chairman for the coming year.
Thank you. Mr. Bonfils,
Yes.
Mr. Byers,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar,
Yes.
Mr. Sultan,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
and Mr. Koblis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Vice Chairman Allen.
And thank you, board members, for trusting me to be the vice chair. I appreciate it.
And then finally,
Wait, oh, I'm sorry, Jonathan. Real quick, just a quick question because I forget. How long are the terms? I know it's 1 year, but we can re-elect them what, like 5 times in a row or something? I forget the thing.
the bylaws have a term limit of 4 consecutive terms for each of these offices of chairman and vice chairman. And I think this is just the second term for both our chairman and vice chairman. So a couple more after this.
Cool, thank you.
And then finally, I would ask for a motion to re-elect Carla Burleson as treasurer and Jewel Lilly as board secretary.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Campbell, and I'll say second by Mr. Koblis. Jewel, can you call the roll on that motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bonfils,
Yes.
Mr. Byers,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar,
Yes.
Mr. Sultan,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
and Mr. Koblis.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations to our board treasurer and secretary. Thank you. And I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Brian, with all these kudos on this report, I'm sure this presentation will be out of this world.
Well, thank you. And I very much appreciate all the kind words. I did want to take a moment just to recognize Sue Crosby and her staff. They're responsible for the pictures and the text that goes with that and the theme. And as Mr. Kelly mentioned, I think this year was fantastic. You know, it really showed everything that we did throughout the past year. And then I also wanted to thank the 15 members of the finance team who you don't get to see and who work every day to make sure that we receive a clean audit and that this report is as great as it is. So I just wanted to acknowledge both of their efforts. The 2020 financial audit is complete. We did receive a clean, unmodified opinion from our auditors, Yount, Hyde & Barbour, on May 19th at the Audit Committee. On May 20th at the Finance Committee, the financial report was presented. We discussed several of the highlights of that report, including that operating revenues increased approximately 2.4% from the prior year. Operating expenses stayed relatively flat, saw a modest increase of 0.2%. Customer growth, we did receive higher growth than projected. We received 3,712 ERCs in 2020 as compared to our budgeted numbers of 2,900. So the next steps for this is we are asking for your approval today to distribute this report to the public, as well as the rating agencies and some of our financial institutions and banks that we work with. And as Mr. Kelly mentioned, we will be submitting this to the Government Finance Officers Association for their Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. We believe, and Yount, Hyde & Barbour believe, that we meet the standards for this report. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I see 2 hands up, but I'm not sure who was first. So.
Mr. Sakar was first, and Mr. Byers.
Actually, I was first.
Right, Angeline first, and
Yes.
then Mr. Byers.
So Brian, first of all, thank you so much, and please do pass over my acknowledgments to the folks that you just mentioned, the 15 members on the Financial Report Committee, and another person. Remind me who that person's name is. I want to just personally acknowledge that person.
Sue Crosby, the Director of Communications. Yeah.
Yes, Sue Crosby. Thank you. A great job. I haven't finished reading the whole report. I'm almost there. The reason why I raised my hand also was because I wanted to ask you to take a moment to offer the board, if you can. There were some recommendations that were offered as part of the report that you didn't mention that I would, I would like you to just mention those recommendations, because
Sure.
Moving forward, when I see the next report next year, I'm going to keep those recommendations in mind. And when I'm reading the report, that's how I'm going to differentiate the report from one year to another. So I would really appreciate if you would take a moment to not just provide us a high-level view for me, and also for me to be exemplified, and for other members who may not have read the report at this time. Thank you.
Sure. So we're talking about the 4 recommendations.
Yes.
Okay, sure,
Yes.
absolutely. So the first recommendation involved information technology, which was user access. When YHB also does a lot of IT auditing for us, and they work with Mike Beardsley and his staff. And so one of the things that they found when they were reviewing some of our accounts payable folder access was someone in the organization had more access than they should. And so when that was brought to Mike's and his team attention, they took care of it. That process was already done before the audit was even complete. So that was their first recommendation. The second recommendation was the documentation of review procedures. And so we do a lot of reconciliations and approvals of things like the bank rec, fixed assets, deeded projects, vendor payments, and all of those require written approval or electronic approval through email. And so what they found was when we switched to all working from home is that not all of those email approvals were saved in the same location. They might have been accidentally saved on the like the L drive with the bank rec, or they got saved in someone's inbox. And so their recommendation was really formalize that policy, create a policy, and make sure that everything is consistent. And so that's a work in progress right now. I'm working to make sure that we have all of those reconciliations acknowledged in the document. And so that's going to be the process going forward, is everything will be saved in one central location and easier for them to find. Because what they like to see when they test that is when they pull the May bank rec, they then want to see the approval of the bank wreck. And so I think there was, some cases where maybe it got saved in a different location and we didn't have a formal policy. And so going forward, we will.
Brian, before you go on, so why don't we have a formal policy in place? This is concerning. Why we don't have a formal policy?
Well, it was in the past before COVID. Some of these things we used to sign off on, just with our pen. And so everything was saved via paper. And then we switched and we had to adapt. And, to be honest, that was just one of the things that fell through the cracks. We had one specifically for bank wrecks, but we didn't have one kind of all encompassing all of our approvals. And so their recommendation was to create a policy just for everything. And so that's what we're doing right now.
Brian, I would really like to request, and please, Carla and Jill, take a note of this. I would like to, when you have formulated that policy, I would really like to take a look at it before it's finalized. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'll make a note of that too.
If I could, Brian, if I could just add, Angeline, just as I mentioned in my comment, you made some good points, and if I would encourage you next year to come to the audit committee meeting, and when they do Jan Hud and Barbara does a great job of kind of describing these and gives us their feeling. I didn't get the sense at all, and nor did they mention that any of these were a weakness. It was just some small gaps that needed to be tightened up and so forth, and kind of a best practice. So I just want to make sure the members understand that there wasn't a concern on the part of our outside auditors. It was just some recommendations to kind of make things a little bit tighter. Did not use the descriptive term of a weakness at all, which would be a concern if they had said that. It's just some things that they noticed as they went through the process. So just want to let you know that.
I just want to add to that, if there are gap areas and ambiguities in understanding, it may not be a weakness, it may not be a concern, but that's what policies are set for. So if we have policies in place, we have a defense mechanism in place. So if anything goes wrong, we had something to fall back on in terms of a policy. It makes us not only look good as a board, and as an institution, an organization, but at the same time, policies tell us that we are prepared, especially in these challenging times. So I'm not coming hard on you, Brian, but you're doing a fabulous job, but there's always room for improvement for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that was the second recommendation that they had. The third recommendation involved oversizing reimbursement liability. That's a process that involves coordination between the finance department and engineering, and there's documentation on both sides. And so they test that every year. They test different ones. And this year they noticed a couple of discrepancies between the two in the documentation. And so the recommendation was really just do a full review of that entire process and everything involved with that. And so that work has started. It's going to take a little while, to be honest, but it will be completed by the end of the year. So that's the other one that is currently in process.
Mr. Byers had a question?
Sorry, there was one more recommendation. I don't know if Mr. Byers had a question on that recommendation, but there was.
No, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Sorry. And then the last recommendation was actually a carryover from the prior year. They had noted that our inventory has started to grow, especially now that we brought Trap Rock online. So that was a bigger, carrying cost for us. And so our inventory team does a great job. They do monthly counts to make sure, everything matches and nothing is missed. But since that has grown, YHB recommended that someone in finance participate in that at some point, whether it's year end or quarterly. And so we had put in place a process to do that. But it involved in-person and close contact. And with COVID not being great in December, we recommended that we not do that this year. And they agreed and felt that with the health issues that there was no reason to do that. And so they put that on the list, not because they still have concerns about it, but because that was an item that they had mentioned. We hadn't put it in place formally. And so they want to check back again next year to make sure that we do. And so, like I said, that process is ready to go and it will be put in place in December.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Fabulous job.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Byers.
Yeah, Brian, great job on the report. And I agree, Sue Crosby, this is world class. This is really a world class report. So congrats to Sue as well. My question was generic in nature, and maybe it's a question for Jonathan or anybody. It's my understanding that what we're doing right now is approving the release of this document to the public. Since the audit is, we engage the auditor as an independent third party to do their job. Does the board actually have to approve release of this document? I can't imagine that we would have the authority not to release this document to the public. And I just wondered, is this something that we are really required to do?
So Carla can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there are a combination of items in this agenda item, and that you are merely receiving the audit report. There's no action required on that. I believe that traditionally the board does approve the comprehensive annual financial report before it is released. If my memory is correct on that, Carla and Brian, but I think that would be the only action that you would take.
Yes, yes, what Jonathan just said. The purpose of this action item is just simply the board saying to staff that this document that that has been prepared has got your blessing before we send it out the door and have others looking at it. So we've gone through the steps with the board to say, okay, we've gotten the financial audit complete. It was clean. You've reviewed all of that. That's incorporated in here. And now we're just asking you for authorization to distribute it to the public. It's really your document. Granted, we have to prepare it, but we like to have it on public record that you approve of it and that it is okay for us to start distributing it to the public.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I just want to also, that's a great thought, Bill. Thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing that up. To that point, I quickly just, and this is important, otherwise I wouldn't say it, I promise. On these reports, there is a set designated page where we don't have the signatories, obviously, for each and every board member who signs on this, but there's a picture of us and our name is there. And so when the report goes out, you know, we have a part to play in that. So that being said, as Carla said, I think I agree that, you know, we have a say, we have a part in this. So not only getting our blessings, but making sure that reading the report is important, and, you know, understanding where we're coming from in terms of the report. Because again, our picture is there, our name is there. So that's got something to say too, right, folks? I mean, I don't know.
Okay, any other comments? Can I have a motion for this, to authorize this report for distribution?
So moved. This is Bill.
And a second?
Second, Sean.
Okay, any more comments or discussion? Jewel, go ahead.
Mr. Bonfils? Mr. Bonfils? Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Byers? Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Ursakar?
Brian, fabulous job. Definite yes from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sultan?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
2 thumbs up, yes.
And Mr. Kovlis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, there is no new, oh, wait a minute, we still have one more thing to vote on, and that's the cancellation of the August board meeting. I don't think there is any kind of reason, but Carla is requesting that we do that.
Okay, wait a minute.
Because
It's
we want
tradition.
to see
It's
each
not
other
Carla's on
once a
vacation.
month.
No, Carla's not on vacation for the month of August, but this is just simply following what the Board of Supervisors typically does, and that's take a recess in August. And so if you choose to do so, you would take the vote.
All right, and so not only is the board meeting canceled, but the committee meetings are canceled in July. So there won't be a finance committee meeting or a CIP meeting.
That's correct.
All right, so can I have a motion to approve this?
I
So
motion
moved.
to
This is
approve.
Marty.
Okay, so Terry and Marty, you can interchange them. And then any more discussion? Angelina, I thought you were trying to say something, but you were half muted. Was there anything you want to say?
Yes, now given the opportunity. So we do have, I think it's July or August, I think I was confused, that we do go in recession. We do go in recess for at least a month, right? So is it July, August? We did that last year too. So I couldn't figure out if it was.
Yeah, so it's
July,
the August board meeting, but the July committee meeting. So technically it's kind of like the last week of July to the last week of August, we're out.
Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying that, Mark.
Terry got a comment?
Yeah, we used to have a summer retreat. I know we didn't have it last year because of COVID, and it looks like we're not going to have it this year. So it's been 2 years that we haven't done it. Are we thinking about maybe doing something in September, October to kind of catch up? Just throwing it out there.
Well, I think
good question.
Yeah, so I think we obviously, just given the state that we're in, we weren't thinking full-blown retreat as we've done, but this workshop that you're doing in June is part of that. And also we're going to have the rate study coming back. So we sort of envisioned that was going to be another workshop. So it's a little bit of a disjointed retreat, if you will, but we're assuming that, next year we would come back with a more formal retreat like we've had in the past.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Jewel, go ahead and take the roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bonfils?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar?
Yes.
Mr. Sultan?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
And Mr. Koblis?
Yes, thanks, Jewel.
Thank you.
We don't have any items in new business or informational items. The finance summary report, Brian, I'm sure that it's just if somebody has any questions. If not, Alton, was there anything, that was one of the reports that I didn't look at. Was there anything significant on this report this month, Alton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your reelection. We're in really great shape. I will note, because it is a change, you'll see in your status indicator on the first page of the report, we are showing the yellow light for groundwater. Now, this is really just us linking our status with the Virginia DEQ's Drought Monitoring Task Force. And they had also placed our region in the yellow light for groundwater. Now, I will say their wells that they use for tracking are typically shallower and based on a limited number of wells to make that call. And we do track our groundwater levels very closely. In recent years, we've made a lot of investment in upgrading and being able to track the wells, the recharge, the levels. Our wells are much deeper, and we are seeing seasonal and normal trends in our groundwater wells. So nothing to worry about there, but I just did want to make that point because you will see that slight change from the previous month's report.
Thanks, Alton.
You're welcome.
And if you look outside, it's about to pour rain, so I think we'll be fine.
I think so.
Not out here. I don't even see a cloud. So I did read also ICPRB is going to possibly release some water in the next couple of weeks, I believe. Is that true, Alton? From the Jefferson, the reservoir up in West Virginia, I think they're talking about releasing some water because of the drought conditions.
That's a bit of news to me. I'm not sure if Pam's on the line. She may be a little closer in touch with that.
I just saw it come out today.
I gotcha. They do publish their monthly report during this season, and that report, at least the latest version, was looking at minimal chance of releases, at least major releases from Jennings Randolph. But we'll continue to track that really closely.
Okay, I mean, it's not a big deal for us, obviously.
Yeah.
Water and sewer agreements, anything of note, Kwei?
No, I'm here available to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. We do not have a closed meeting, so if I could have a motion to adjourn, that would be great. Nobody wants to adjourn?
So moved. This is Bill.
Second, Sean.
Bill does.
Action, people.
All right, go ahead, Jewel.
Mr. Bonfils,
Yes.
Mr. Byers,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Sursakar.
Yes, and also, please note, I want to wish all my 8 male colleagues a very happy Father's Day. I hope your daughters, your wives, mothers, whoever is important in your life spoils you. I'll be sure spoiling my husband, that's for sure. He's going to the massage and then he's going to have a really nice breakfast coming his way. So I hope you all get the best treatment. You all work very hard and you really deserve a restful, beautiful Father's Day. So happy Father's Day.
Very nice. Mr. Sultan,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
and Mr. Koblis.
Yes, and thank you, Angeline. Everybody have a good month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.